Welcome back, ECA members, students, and future members of students. This is Kenneth Ellington. This is episode, I want to say, like 17 of our Ask Me Anything sessions that we normally do every other Monday. I know y'all were expecting to see Kajhon from Microsoft on today. He had a family emergency, so he won't be able to make it today. So we'll have him rescheduled probably sometime in October, more than likely. But Nigel will be on around 5 minutes. He's taking care of something. And I also have Sophia here as well. So for today's part, we'll keep this a little bit shorter. So probably we'll go from around maybe 35, 40 minutes. Then I'll open up the floor to any questions you guys may have. Or just drop your questions inside the chat as well, so we're able to answer them for you too. But today's theme is going to be on threat hunting and threat intelligence, which is what a lot of our themes normally are. That's what my team specializes in. So we'll cover how to automate some of your threat hunts. I was going to have Kajhon go over how to do it inside of Microsoft specifically because he works for Microsoft. But again, we'll have that rescheduled for sometime in October, more than likely. But for now, we'll just go over the basics of what that looks like, and then some of the things my hiring managers and roles look for inside of that sector, so you guys can stand out with it. And again, if you guys are curious about like what we do from like the student and training side, just feel free to reach out towards me, Nigel, Sophia, and set the chats and set DMs for LinkedIn, YouTube, or email us directly. So we're able to just actually sit down with you and talk towards you in much more detail. But let me see. Let me check really quickly. Let's see if we're able to get this. Wrong one. Let's see. All right, perfect. We are live. Let me try this out. All right, perfect. All right, we're good to go. So with threat hunting, threat intelligence, there are two different things. I've probably gone over this like 10,000 times, so I'm gonna keep going over it. For those that are new, think of threat intelligence, which is what Nigel specializes in, which you'll be on like another probably 2 to 3 minutes. That is more from the hence intelligence side. So much more of the information gathering, right? Understanding how your adversaries may affect your organization, right? Specifically for what you do. For example, people who may target public supermarkets are going to probably be different people that would target that firm compared to JP Morgan, right? Just because attacker may attack one firm doesn't mean the way they'll attack them with the tactics, techniques, and procedures will be different compared to another firm. So keep that in mind when you guys are doing threat hunting compared to threat intelligence. So threat hunting, what I specialize in more, that is the act of proactively going inside of an environment, either internally or your client's environment, and actually trying to prevent attacks from actually happening, so being much more proactive. That could vary in different things, right? Normally, you'll have some type of hypothesis for what you're trying to test against. Let's say it's some type of new Windows malware that affects your systems, right? You want to test that against your hypothesis, so you'll have different things you're going to want to try to run against it, try to understand what data you have, how the data operates within your organization specifically, right? Because again, every organization is slightly different from each other, right? Once you have the baseline down, you can then start to dive deep inside your hunt, right? Test different queries out to see what you pull back, right? And then go from there. So I know Day had a post out, Day Cyberwalk, or Jay Johnson. He had a post out, I want to say, maybe a couple days ago, talking about threat hunting particularly, and how it can be kind of boring a lot of the times, which is pretty accurate. Let me see if I can pull that up. Let me share this. Sophia, can you see my screen?
Affirmative.
All right, perfect. So yeah, can I make this bigger? Should I make it bigger? It should be fine, actually. There we go. So what Day is basically saying, right? If threat hunting sounds really cool and really sexy, right? A lot of the times for half my job, particularly when I was a threat hunter for my last clients, half my job was reports and presentations towards executives, right? That was functionally what I did for half of it. Other half was the more technical piece, right? So building automations, using YAR, SPO, whatever language I'm using, right? Using Sigma, right? Another half was again building reports, right? Because whenever I find something, I then have to actually go out and then present that in front of my actual teams and my leads, right? Because they want to know like what I found and how did I find it, right? And then I have to then document all my processes as well for my report. So I have to create 2 reports, one for higher ups like executives and one for actual technical people, right? So I had it broken down into 2 different silos for that, and that is how I normally did my reports. And then from there, I would then create a slide deck or presentation to show up towards my higher ups as well for the presentation, and then I would basically rinse and repeat for that process. I personally enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun for me. I know it's not for everyone, particularly. So it just depends on what route you're trying to take for threat hunting. I would definitely say if you don't enjoy doing the research or talking towards people or collaborating with different professionals, it probably isn't the route for you, honestly. This isn't like a sit behind the keyboard type of role all day, which surprises people when I tell them that. A lot of times it is you're going to be presenting in front of someone else, having to talk towards different higher ups, a lot of reporting, a lot of documentation, right? A lot of note taking. So proper communication and writing skills are super important for the type of roles. Say a decent amount of security roles on the threat side require those type of skills. This isn't like software engineering, which you can have decent, crappy documentation and get away with it. So that is one of the avenues for this. I'll pause for a second. Are there any questions for me at all about difference between threat hunting and threat intelligence?
At the moment on the chat, I don't see any questions. Everyone, feel free to drop your questions or any comments.
Gotcha. And then again, guys, Sophie was my staffing coordinator for our staffing side before we kind of slowed things down for that. So any questions about hiring for that, you can just feel free to ask her as well. So don't be shy. If you hear frogs in the background, she's in the middle of the jungle in Puerto Rico, so that's partly why.
The little tree frogs are singing, but besides that, feel free to ask any questions on the recruitment side. I did do a few screenings for some threat hunting roles, so I kind of have a perspective on that side of stuff and how to go towards your desired threat hunting role.
But yeah, definitely as well follow Day. Day works as a security engineer on incident response side, I believe, for Amazon. So definitely reach out towards him. Day is awesome. I've done some episodes with them on his podcast too. But yeah, that is one of the avenues you can go down. So from like an automation standpoint, all right, I know that's one of the things you guys are asking about. How do I stop sharing? Oh man, there we go. So I know automation was one of the things I get asked about often, and how should you automate it, right? One of the big things I would say is if you want to automate anything, right, make sure you either process down first. But you don't want to automate junk. So make sure whatever you automate, you actually have the processes down for what you want to do. Let me see if we can pull this StreamYard link. How? Y'all never get it. It's okay. Nigel needs a StreamYard link. I'll send it towards him.
If anything, I can also send him the one on my invite, so just let me know.
Oh, I gotta love my team. Okay, so yeah, for example, if you want to automate any process, you should definitely have the basics and fundamentals down, or whatever that process is. So if you're performing validation checks for, let's say, a SIEM and SOAR environment, you should understand how that actually runs from a manual perspective, and then you can use whatever language you want to use to automate that process, right? So for example, if you're trying to automate something inside of Sentinel, you probably use PowerShell more than likely, honestly, to automate those checks and balances, right? So you may have a script that runs certain queries in the background to check against your data connectors to try to pull logs from that, right? To see what's running, what is not turned on. If you have Splunk, you may use Python or JSON to create another script or Bash or whatever to try and, if we're doing talking about threat hunting perspective, normally if I automate something, I would be automating the actual data analysis piece. So from the standpoint of collecting data, right? So if I want to collect data from certain buckets or certain data types, I can run a script to basically pull that information for me to speed up the process. Within Splunk specifically, you can use something called knowledge objects inside of, Sentinel. You can use something called functions, like in any programming language, and then you can automate that process, right? So it depends on how you want to kind of slice and dice that. Well, question towards their class. Who here is familiar with threat hunting or who has been a threat hunter before?
And if anyone has also been looking to pivot into threat hunting from another part of cyber tech or any other field, can also comment and kind of ask their questions maybe on that side of things as well.
It looks like Nigel was here. There's Nigel.
Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late.
How does my team always never see my links? I put them inside the Google Meets, but that's okay.
Yeah, I didn't see it. So
too busy on his yacht. It's okay. So Kajhon is not gonna be here, Nigel. He has to take care of some stuff, so we'll probably reschedule him probably in October for our session.
Okay.
But the main talking points today were threat hunting, threat intelligence, more along the lines of like how to automate some of your processes. So I was just going over like best practices for it. I think one of the things people mess up because everyone is told to like learn how to code or automate things, as they'll automate junk, right? And so they don't understand the actual manual processes of how things work. The things they automate are very crappy, right? So my thing I tell anybody, if you want to automate something, to first understand what you're actually doing, right? Understand the manual processes, go through it multiple times so you can then like create a script, use queries, use functions, use knowledge objects to streamline that process from my personal perspective. Oh, we do have a question actually. What do you have to do to start pivoting your career to haunting? Do you mean threat hunting, Layla? So threat hunting is not an entry-level role. I don't consider it an entry-level role. It's normally tier 3 for most organizations. So what does that mean, right? You have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 1, think of like basic triaging. You scan a ticket and you send it off towards an engineer or a higher level analyst, right? Tier 2 means you're the one that will be handling that. So think of incident response, security engineering, some engineering, SOAR stuff. That is normally tier 2. Tier 3 is the more practical parts of cybersecurity, right? So tier 3 normally handles stuff that the other engineers don't have time to actually take a look at or fix because they're too busy doing their jobs. So you're that extra help to proactively basically improve your security posture and do gap analysis to fix your firm's issues, which is what threat hunting basically is, like functionally speaking. That is your job. Your job is to make your security posture better and do gap analysis functionally. That's what it's supposed to do. I know the name sounds pretty cool and sexy, but that's what your job basically is. So threat hunting is not entry level from the standpoint, because it's hard to help someone else out if you don't understand what they do or have ever done the job before, right? So it's hard to teach a chef how to be a better chef if you've never been a chef before, right? So that's why I tell people threat hunting is not an entry level role. It's much more of a senior role, which is why you want to see junior level threat hunters. So normally, if you want to be a threat hunter, you'll normally have to be in security for at least like probably 2 to 4 years, maybe a little bit less, depending on what you pack inside those years, right? Because Nigel knows people that have 20 years worth of experience but don't know anything at all, they don't do anything at all, they sit, they drop and collect a paycheck. People that have been in the field for like 4 years but have done 10 years worth of work, if they actually put in the work for it. So it just depends. Anything add to that, Nigel?
Yeah, I would say that, I mean, you were spot on. When I think of most threat hunters that I've collaborated with or know in the field, they have quite a few of experience, and they're very let me not say very, they're technical in a lot of different aspects of security, right? You're essentially, as a threat hunter, looking for that needle in the haystack, right? And being pretty technically sound is going to be very important in that, and understanding the different ways to go about being a threat hunter is going to be important too. So not to discourage and say you couldn't do it in 1 to 2 years, but it would be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
I would get candidates that would usually come from a SOC analyst background or come from another more senior part of cyber to pivot into threat hunting or to possibly apply for that role. So that's why I kind of highlighted if anyone that is on another part of cyber and kind of wants to get into threat hunting, because it is tier 3. So it is something that you maybe have to build up your technical in, or come from another fairly technical part of cyber to kind of step in and understand really and help out.
And then you'll probably want to know how much you get paid to be a threat hunter. People always ask me that. Everyone's financially driven, which isn't bad, but so how much you get paid to be a threat hunter depends, right? On where you work. It can be anywhere. High end, maybe like base 220, quarter mil for certain firms. Couldn't be as low as like 120, right? It just depends on where you work and what level you're going to be at. If you work at like Splunk or Coinbase, they'd probably be closer towards the higher end. If you work at like a mom and pop shop, maybe a little bit lower. So it just depends. It also depends on where you live too. But I would say don't just pick a cybersecurity role just for the money. And by that I mean, if you're good at most niche roles in cybersecurity, you make a lot of money, honestly speaking. So pick something that you actually like to do. I tell people, they ask me kind of like, what role pays the most for cybersecurity? I'm like, oh, and maybe I don't know. It may be like an SA. Like, all right, cool. I want to do that. Well, an SA is a security solutions architect, by the way. And then I asked him, but I'm like, you know, that's a lot of people talking, presentations, and traveling. They're like, oh, don't worry, man. I don't care. As long as they pay me $300K. They didn't start doing for it, training for it, practicing for it. Like, I hate this channel. I'm like, yeah, like I figured you would. All right. So I actually understand like what you actually like to do, the things you're actually inclined to do, and then go from there. Because you get really good at it for most niches for cybersecurity, you'll make a pretty decent living, honestly. So that's just my personal perspective. Anything to add, Nigel or Sophia?
Yeah, I would say as you're going along your journey, is kind of like be aware of what catches your interest as you're learning about cybersecurity. So like if you're learning about investigations and things of that nature and getting into the weeds of things, those are more of the like incident response, threat hunting kind of role. So you need to be very aware, intentional as you're on your journey trying to get into cyber, getting more specialized in cyber, right? To Kenneth's point, the more you're able to specialize, the more you're able to demand more because you become an SME in your specific field, right? So like I specialize in threat intelligence. So that's my focus. And I try to be the best at that so that no matter what, private, public, no matter what sector, I'm a SME, subject matter expert in that specific specialized field. And I'm able to warrant a different type of like pay, I guess. So I say to just be very aware as you're learning. Don't learn for the short-sightedness. Like, I just want to get into cyber. Just be like, okay, this interests me, or frameworks interest me. Things like that is going to help you in the long run of your career.
Yeah, following up on what you guys said, for our clients that we were recruiting for, and the roles that we were recruiting for, base would usually be 120, like around that, which is what Kenneth mentioned. But I feel like a lot of the salary you could negotiate with a potential, I guess, recruiter and the company would depend on your skill set. So it's a good thing to keep in mind. So if you have a specific skill set, you could possibly negotiate higher if you have something. If you're looking to go more entry level, well, that will just depend.
Oh, Nigel, remember, Sophia's in the jungles of Puerto Rico. They're called tree frogs, the little green ones, I guess.
So it's so funny you said that. So I'm like looking around and I'm like, is it me? Or like, I was so confused. I was like, wait.
Oh, we have little tree frogs that sing the specific tune. So it's like really high pitched and they're just all over the place. So
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So, see any more questions? Joffrey. Hi guys, thank you for hosting this talk. What you described, is it correct to say 300 equals SOC analyst level 2? I would still say no. I would say it depends on how the org structured, but
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
depends on the org.
Yeah,
like threat hunting can be its own role at an organization, depending on how mature they are. But and not to cut you off, Ken, in the grand scheme of things, like a SOC analyst could be a threat hunter depending on what the detection or what the alert they're working on, right? Some of the same concepts are kind of in that. It's just not like your dedicated role, I guess I would say.
Yeah. And that's where the issue come in. Firms try to make it like a side hustle for them. And it becomes really hard to actually build out a proper program and do it consistently. Because as you know, like I have like clients for my current job, and it's hard to just purely be like a threat hunter with it, right? It's a lot going on. It takes a lot of your time, right? So just trying to like give someone threat hunter duties when they already have another full-time job, from the standpoint of their own of what they're doing inside the company, isn't the most efficient way, I would probably say. So normally that's why threat hunting is a much more advanced role and much more mature thing for firms. So if you are a really small mom and pop shop or a small startup, you probably don't have a threat hunter dedicated on your team because it just doesn't make sense for you to have that, given what your security maturity level is. There's other important things you'll have to get down first before you can move on towards that more advanced stage. It's like trying to learn how to do a step back three-pointer if you can't dribble with both hands. It's kind of pointless, right? So like learn the basics first, understand that, and then you can normally become a threat hunter. So I would say for most firms, it'd probably be like a lead analyst who might become like a threat hunter, and that's called like level 3 or like a lead. But normally it's a little more high level role.
In recruitment, I see a trend of SOC analysts or people with that experience apply for the threat hunting roles. But like Kenneth mentioned, that's some helpful advice there. But I definitely saw that trend where SOC analysts would apply for threat hunting roles on my end. It would just depend on their skill sets as well, if they proceeded to that next screening with me, or if they were even submitted.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, like threat hunters are essentially investigators who catch like stealthy attackers early on, right? A lot of the work that they do are probably similar to what a SOC analyst does, but like their dedicated role is to look for those anomalous behavior proactively, not reactively, like how a SOC analyst would through an alert, right? So if your organization is mature to that stage to where they can have one dedicated person doing that based on the different types of threat hunts you can do, intelligence-led, hypothesis-based, whatever the case may be, it's just how the organization is structured. So it could be an analyst 2 at one company. It could be analyst 3 at another. It could be a lead at another. So it just depends. Titles, really, I don't know. I have a personal battle with titles in cyber. I just really look at what is my role. The title doesn't really matter to me, but that's
yeah, more than the title, I'd say what are the responsibilities and what are the skills that you have to, nurture those responsibilities. So that's just something to keep in mind. I feel like the skill set matters so much more, especially when you have someone that's probably skimming this piece of paper that represents your entire career for like 2 minutes. So yeah, it's a good thing to keep in mind.
Then again, guys, please drop your questions inside of the chat. This session is a little bit shorter because we don't have Kajhon on, so we're gonna move this one towards again end of October probably. So we'll probably go like the 7:45 for you guys. So drop your questions inside the chat. And then Joffrey puts, "Thank you. How would you describe a typical day as a threat hunter?" So for me, normally how I normally start my day with my last client would be, I would review threat hunts I've done in the past, right? I would then get, we had a third party. They think they use GuidePoint. GuidePoint have a list of new threats that came out. I would then take a look at them to see what actually affects our environment, and start doing research from there, checking different links on different articles, maybe Palo Alto Unit 42, could be MITRE, could be NIST, could be CISA, just different sites. All right, if I determine this actually affects our corporation, I'll then start to craft a rule and test that against our systems to see what level of fidelity is this, right? A lot of the time, I won't find activity for it, but if I didn't, I would then put it in the backlog, which I was in charge. I was the lead detection engineer as well, so I wore both hats. Then I'll just create the rule myself using Yara. For that case, they use Google SecOps. Then I'll put in production and then test it and tweak it per our needs, and then document that, write a report, then move on towards the next rules, next tasks for that. That's my typical day. Some days it varies. Some days I did presentations for the C-level people, or some days I did product evaluation to get a new platform to help improve my process. It'll just depend. Then threat intelligence is slightly different as well, which Nigel can talk about a little bit more.
Whoa. I'm a threat hunter too now. I'm a threat hunter too. I'm just kidding. I mean, I am, but I don't want the title. So I guess from my perspective, when I do threat hunts, they're more intelligence-based, right? And you'll learn more about that as you kind of dive into threat hunting. But how I do it is based off intel, right? Because I'm a threat intelligence analyst. So mine comes off of what campaign is going on, right? There might be a campaign of a malicious actor utilizing PowerShell or something, some PowerShell scripts to hide in memory or something. I don't know. And from there, I would use that intel, then form like a hypothesis and say, hey, I need to go check all of the machines that are running PowerShell at weird times, blah, 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 blah. From there, I would go hunt, I would write a report or whatever the case may be, come up with what I find. If I find the anomalous behaviors, share it with the appropriate teams. Maybe I'll share it with the detection engineering team. They may, spin up a rule, YARA rule, whatever the case may be. And there's your threat hunt. Sometimes you find things, sometimes you don't. And then from there, you just keep building upon that and kind of build that library to say, this is our checks and balances based off campaigns, it could be threat actors. That's a more intel-based kind of hunt. But that's how my day usually goes about when I do threat hunt. It's something comes across my desk and I got to go hunt for it, check, do due diligence.
Yeah, which comes with time and experience from that. So after a while, it's a hard part in my opinion is like if it's a new client, just like learn their environment, which AI can help out a lot with that. It can create you a bunch of templates of alerts or templates of queries you can run to kind of create a baseline of what the environment should look like. Because normally, Nigel, before I started using like Copilot or ChatGPT, depending on the environment I was in, I'd have to like manually search through all the logs, which took forever to understand it. So now I just tell like Copilot, hey, create me like the 10 queries for me to check where the logs are coming from and how many logs I'm getting, like what type of information am I getting, to kind of help streamline the process for that. Key thing with this is you have to know what you're actually doing. Because if you don't, something breaks and you don't know what the hell you're doing, you're kind of screwed. All right. So AI is still just a tool.
Wait, what's AI?
AI is still just a tool.
Oh, okay. I keep hearing about this AI thing. I didn't know what it was. So
yeah, there's some people. I've had some people. I guess some of my high manager friend have told me people have tried to is use AI on their interview, but they don't know what they're doing. So something breaks and they don't know how to fix it. So they're kind of screwed. Or they tell AI to write the resume and they have stuff in it that they're like, I don't know how to do this, but they're like, it's on your resume though.
I've had my fair share of just phone screenings of just, so tell me about this. And then the candidate's like, what about it? But we never got to that like real conversation about it in order to, escalate them towards the client. And, if you have a skill and it's something that you really are skilled at, showcase it. But otherwise, it's not really in your favor to have this specific thing written on your resume and then not be able to resonate with it when you're having these types of interviews. So, like I said, skill set matters, and it should be something to be really kept in mind.
Nigel, tell me about Splunk. What about it? What do you mean?
Hold on, I gotta type in Copilot really quick. I'm not knocking it by any means. I just like both of them said, it should be a tool. It shouldn't be the end all be all. If that's your end all be all, then good luck. So.
I tell people they're gonna find out one way or the other if you can do the job or not. All right, you can only like lie so much. I bet people like have gotten hired, and the company finds out like, oh wait, you can't do the job at all. Why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
Becomes pretty obvious after a while. You can only like BS them for so long.
Mm-hmm. Of course, a lot of understanding. Querying for and why. Yep. Matthew got some good points. It's true.
Yeah. If I tell people to practice right, one of the big things is you just can't, like, for example, just build out a live environment. You actually have to practice inside of it. But people, you probably seen this a lot, Nigel, when you're helping people out. People will put, I built out a Splunk environment. I'm like, cool. I'm like, what else did you do? Did you just build it out and walk away? Did you actually manage it? Did you actually use it every single day? Do you document it? Do you write reports on it? Do you create videos for it, walkthroughs? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, the details is important, and being able to convey that message is going to be just as important as well. So having that on your resume under like projects or whatever the case may be is a good first start. That's how you bridge the gap of no experience by showing hands-on experience of you doing things, like setting up an environment, but you need to be able to speak to it. So especially if you're building your own environment within your own VM or wherever you're doing it at, like you should be an expert to be able to speak about it. You should want to speak about it. That's how much you should be involved in it, to where you don't wait for the interviewer to bring it up. You kind of sprinkle it in one way, like, oh, have you ever, looked at logs and oh, matter of fact, yeah, in my home environment, I'll give it a little pause. I did this, and this. So they're like, so then the interview is like, oh, they have I'm gonna be quiet, but just use those steps. Like if you're doing projects, you should be proud of them. You should speak to them, and you should really be a subject matter expert at them.
Yeah, it's super important. We have a question. Leila puts, how did you guys get the practice needed? Was it from school, job, or personal? I'll go first. So for me, I got my initial experience mainly from on the job. So when I got my internship at Publix, that's where I got the majority of my experience to start off my career. I used Splunk converse security. I worked as a threat intelligence analyst. So I was inside of Splunk for 50 hours a day. I might have been exaggerating. That's what I did all day, every day. And I did back-end Linux and mainline stuff with my networking team. And so I stayed late after I begged to stay late. I want to make the best impression possible. People are like, why is this kid still here? It's like 6 o'clock at night. I'm like, I'm trying to learn. So I just did that every single day. That's how I got most of my experience. And then from postgraduate, I trained people, right? And I taught universities, University of Houston, and the University of Kansas as well, and University of Wisconsin too. Third company I was doing. So I was a teacher there. And then I started this company, so I have to stay up the breast and everything to help people. So this is my life. For the good and bad. And you, Nigel?
My bad. How do you guys get practice me? So most of what I've learned has been self-taught. Long story, less long. I started learning about cyber in like early 2021, just through various resources, open source resources, so free sources at the beginning. And then I did do a boot camp. What I did learn from the boot camp is a lot of stuff I was learning, I already knew kind of from what I was learning, but what it did, it gave me structure, and it kind of broke down what I was learning a little bit better. Because as you're going down this journey, you're going to be like all over the place. So what the boot camp did, it like broke it up from red teaming to blue teaming, purple teaming. So I understood all of the three kind of facets of cyber, and it gave me the structure. So a lot of the learning that I did was kind of mostly self-taught and then hands-on. So I did a lot of labs where it was try hack me, hack the box, a lot of those modules. A lot of those modules will kind of walk you through it. They kind of hold your hand, but you actually touch and do hands-on keyboards kind of work of what a real SOC analyst or a real vulnerability management analyst may do in a day-to-day in an organization. So I was able to speak to certain things as if I had the experience, even though I had never had a security role. So that's kind of how I learned in practice. And, the biggest thing is once I got my role, like I never stopped. So, yeah. So then to answer your question, then when I got my role, then I started getting all the certs and had my, tuition, reimbursement, college, all of that. So I kind of did it in the reverse.
Do you, Sophie?
So what I have to say about that on the recruitment side is that so I did phone screenings for our clients, but something that really helps in the more technical aspects, maybe in that technical interview that you have for these types of roles, is that you actually demonstrate what you know, what you've learned, and your skill set. So I feel like however that may be, with an at-home lab, or through your education, or through certs, or through whatever means you got it from, try your best to demonstrate that knowledge and that, practicality in those interviews that you're going to do, or even through the phone screenings that I did, depending on how someone spoke about what they knew, what they have done, is how I actually knew, okay, I want to push this person towards our client. So I'd say that, know what you're doing, like really go in depth and practice it, break something, rebuild it, investigate. I feel like that's more of what really makes a candidate, worthwhile in that aspect. So if you're trying to secure that dream role, just make sure that you're really prepared for it in that sense.
Yeah, I think it's super important for you as well because you're still in college, Sophie. They better graduate pretty soon. So doing stuff like this is what I try to get my staff and my students to do. Nigel's more advanced, right? So he doesn't need my help anymore. But especially for Sophie, right? Making sure they get put in the right spots. Because as you know, Nigel, most jobs are filled in the back end, right? So if you don't know anybody or have the proper connections, it's hard to land your first role. Which is why I try toward professionals to build proper connections, right? For me, I go towards a networking event. I've been going to more the past couple months, but I go to one probably 3-4 times a month. So I belong to one every single week for the past month. Tomorrow I'm going towards one. It was a Bob's Steakhouse, and I know that's a very generic name, but it's a super fancy steakhouse in Dallas. So again, those events are really cool, right? Because it's a bunch of C-level people. The food is free, right? So honestly, the meals normally, if you went there by yourself today, probably $120, $150. They're all covered. They're all paid for. And if you want to order extra food, you can. Because they're not going to check and ask you. They don't care, right? So I normally do that anyways. So yeah, they're really super fun. I meet a lot of different professionals there as well. As you'll find out, I should put this. So at the event I went to last week at was a Third Fork or something like in Frisco. Some of the people there can be kind of weird. It's always funny because they're always in leadership, as you know, Nigel. They're a lot of times they're very weird human beings. Some guy flipped his ish because there wasn't enough alcohol inside and drink. So he got really upset, started freaking out. Stuff like that, right? So you'll get to kind of move and navigate between those different people.
Something that I've been kind of relaying to some of the, students that I talk to is what I realized was as people go down this path of trying to get into cybersecurity, they kind of isolate and get so focused on trying to learn so much about cybersecurity, all the different protocols, all the different types of threats, all these things, that just like any other job that's customer facing, in the sense, when I say customer facing, like you work with customers or you're doing stuff like that or have stakeholders, there's a technical side and there's soft skill sides, communicating, right? So you should be exercising and practicing that skill just as much as you're learning about all these different frameworks and all these things. Like networking is a skill, to Kenneth's point. There's a difference. I'm just using for an example. Let's say Kenneth goes to a networking event. I go to the same networking event. He may go there to, just be in the room, kind of network to see if he can get a job, while I can go in there very intentional, making sure that I'm communicating exactly what I want, but not from a take perspective, from a give and take. Maybe I do some research on who may be going to the conference. Maybe when I see someone, I ask questions. Like I may be the first person or the only person they may talk to at that whole conference. So it's very intentional to be just as strategic as you're learning cybersecurity and all of the things, because some things that may separate you from other candidates is how you communicate, right? How are you able to get your point across? Are you a team player, right? Most organizations like team players, right? So you're a good fit for the team. Can you collaborate? So I think students and people who are interested in getting into cyber should focus and practice that side too. Don't learn all these technical stuff, and then when you get into an interview, you're a robot. You know what I'm saying? Like you've just now, while you could have been practicing the soft skills simultaneously as learning this technical skills, and you can be that well-rounded kind of package. So I'm very big on that. So anyone that I help and I talk to, like, I kind of start with that. I feel like the technical stuff you can learn if you're disciplined and you put the time in. Like, if I said you need to learn about certain protocols in a week, you could do it. But communicating it in an effective way may take a little bit longer because you've never done it. So you should probably practice that just as much. So that'll be my gem for this for this talk today. Practice the soft skills. Don't sleep on them.
No, definitely. As a student myself, a trend I've been seeing amongst us is that we have lost so much touch and so much tact with people. And it's something that I'm trying to push within my community as a student and being in a student association. And I just feel like that really helps with the technical. You have to really combine those because one doesn't oppose the other, and they're supposed to complement each other. And I feel like keeping that is really, really valuable. Just that, speaking, writing, reading, understanding, communicating. It's just like it's so important.
I was on mute. But yeah, it's super important. I mean, honestly, when you're like between like 18 to 20, 22, you're a pretty awkward human being for most people, honestly. I was, at least, from my perspective, right? I guess Nigel wasn't. But I was, at least, right? I had very poor social skills, which I probably still do, honestly. But for me, it was always hard to talk to people, especially at that age. So it takes practice, right? For example, like Scott Galloway says, if you're not willing to look stupid in public, you're not going to have the life that you want in private, right? So you have to be willing to basically eat poop on a daily basis and get up and do it over and over again, even though people may laugh at you. And this continues to do that over and over again. That's literally what I do, right? I do all the stuff. I still stutter sometimes, I still mess up my words, right? But I still come out here every other week and do this session in front of technically thousands of people because they watch us after the replay. Same thing, like, for example, me and Ed are going to be speaking at B-side St. Pete. I get terrible stage fright. I don't like talking in public, honestly. I really don't like doing it, but my thing is I need to do it. Like, the Lord had blessed me with the gift of knowledge for cybersecurity for some odd reason. I know why. I prayed for him for it, so I won't complain. But I have to do this, right? That's my thought process for it. So even though I nearly have like a panic attack every time I talk on stage, I still do it, right? So again, right, like, hard things are hard. You can't get around it. So you just have to do it. Like, everyone's different, so your path will be slightly different, but the work you're gonna have to do will still be hard. So just do it, honestly.
Yeah, Matthew commented, or just practice the art of being world famous and enjoy being around people. People, not everyone is like a people person. So like Kenneth mentioned, it's like really, really hard for some people to be around other people, but just the effort of putting yourself out there and doing those things that challenge you are really going to take you out of their comfort zone. But it is so much better when you are just a people person and you just naturally connect with people. The art of being world famous. It's really good skill or just talent. Depending on how you have it, it's just exercise it because it's so valuable in this climate right now.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nigel.
Oh no, I didn't really have. I agree. Just practice, do it. So like Kenneth said, he gets, super nervous, palms sweaty. He's probably to change his shirt right before he goes on to present, but he's doing it, right? So at the end of the day, that's the first step. So the more and more you do it, the more and more he will have to change and bring an extra shirt to change into, and he'll, be speaking to millions of people. So you got to do the work, so.
I don't sweat that. I don't sweat. That's not my thing. And Layla, you're right. I don't hide my facial expressions, which I get in trouble for that a lot of the times. Because I am who I am, kind of. I don't really hide my facial expressions or emotions too much. When someone says some crazy ass stuff, I kind of just show it on my face. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, right? Is to just do it. For example, I'll use Matthew's example. So I met Matthew the past year at Telecom. That's the first time I met him in person. I think he might have reached out towards me before the conference. He saw that I'll be doing a training session there. And I was very, very impressed by how he carried himself, right? So that stood out towards me. That's why I still talk to Matthew even now. He made a very good impression on me. Which most people honestly don't. It's a good job on you, Matthew. You didn't ask me for a job or ask me for money, right? Which happens pretty often, honestly. Surprisingly, or not to me anymore. So very good job on Matthew for making a good impression, right? Remember, guys, if you guys want to talk to like me, Nigel, or anybody else that's super busy, we get reached out to dozens of times per day, right? So making sure you make a good impression is super important, right? Because Nigel can probably test too. People try to ask him for help or jobs all the time, ask him to get inside the company, and he's like, "Who are you people? Why are you talking to me?" Right? So again, first impressions do really matter. Then I'll give it 3 more minutes for any more questions before we close out. Do you guys have any last minute questions to drop into the chat? So for me,
no, I was just gonna add up to what you were saying. From a student's perspective, is that someone who's looking to be mentored most of the time as a younger person in the field, and someone who's just looking to explore a lot. It's so harsh to just go up to someone and be like, I want a job, or I want this, I want that. You really have to go with intention, and being a good mentee is part of that. Involves you connecting with someone and knowing it's genuine and this person is for you. And there's people that are not going to be for you. There's people that they're just gonna probably gonna look at you crazy, or maybe not respond. But being a good mentee, no matter if you're young or if you're trying to pivot, is so important. So just move with intention and talk to people that you're going to connect with, or that something about them resonates with you. Don't go asking for things because it's not going to work. It's just not part of human connection like that.
Yeah. It's
go to the conference and be like, so what?
Yeah, I mean,
every interaction you have,
yeah,
good or bad, so what?
Yeah, the worst thing they do is tell you no, honestly, Sophie. Like no one, I guess we as humans make the worst case scenarios in our mind. I do this pretty often. No one can spit in your face or cuss you out. Well, they shouldn't, right? They just can probably tell you no. So just shoot your shot. That's the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, just prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and be authentic, be genuine. Like nothing bad is gonna happen. No one's going to, hold you at gunpoint or anything. It's just the worst you could get is a no, or a weird look, or something unpleasant. But that shouldn't stop you. Like you have done so much more. So just have that self-confidence and move as yourself.
So what?
Exactly. You want something, go after it. Because if you don't go after it, someone else will. So might as well be you.
I will. 100%.
That's how Nigel got that yacht.
Yeah.
He wanted it. So he went after it, right? He told me he took it up towards the the Chicago River or whatever, the youth board.
Oh my
And
god.
I was like, oh god, I'm like, can't go on. He said, no, Kenneth. He's like, you're not me. I was like, I know. It's like, good.
I think we have a question in the chat.
No, let's see. Matthew put. Oh no, Matthew didn't put. I gotta ask Fayas to see if I'm going or not. I might. But I can make it. I'll go. I might fly down next time. Cause that cold. It was like 10 degrees when we went last year, Nigel, in Austin, February. I'm like, I can't do that again. Honestly,
Really?
it feels bad. I can't do that again. So I'm just gonna I might just fly down.
I gotta look into that conference.
Yeah. If it was in Austin, I should be able to go again. But yeah, guys. So to close out, update. So Nigel has a threat intelligence courses November. Those who want to sign up, there's still spots left, so definitely reach out towards him or me about that. I still have slots for my main program as well. I probably have like around 9 slots left. Then we'll be to close out the year and wait until January. So if you have questions about it at all, just let me know. Right? We're here to help you guys out. Otherwise, that's it. Our next session will have all of us on, plus like 4 more people. Markeisha, Dominique, and then Tyrone should be on as well. That'll be a much bigger one. That'll be much more career focused. Nigel, I'll send you the LinkedIn stuff. I think I'm gonna send you already. The one where the guys arguing with me, Markeisha. We're going to talk about that and the do's and don'ts of how to talk to people on LinkedIn. Some of y'all need help with that, so we'll be giving you that help. But otherwise, if you have any questions at all, just let us know. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.